Please stand. We are summoned here to make decisions which bind our authority for time to come. Let us do so in an atmosphere of dignity, goodwill, respect and calm. May those decisions be just and fair, and in the long term, the best interests of the people who live and work in our beautiful county of Dorset. The first item on the agenda tonight is the election of a chairman. Can I please have nominations for chairman, please? Yes, Councillor Suttle.
Working? Yep. Great. It is my privilege to propose Councillor Val Pothecary. She served for council as chairman, exemplary ambassador for Dorset, and the role requires impartiality, decorum, and in some cases, a very patient demeanour. I can't think of anyone else that such attributes come to so naturally. Please support my proposal. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. It gives me great pleasure to second Councillor Val Pothecary. She not only is an excellent chairwoman, a very close personal friend, and one of the few people that can actually hold me to task. So, very happy to support and second her.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? In that case, then, I confirm the appointment of the chairman, Val Pothecary, Councillor Pothecary.
Sal, do you want to?
Thank you.
I'll stand there and read that out.
I, Val Pothecary, having been elected to the office of Chairman of Dorset Council, declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of councillors of Dorset Council. Thank you. Oh, look, it'll do. Shaking. Thank you. Okay. You're okay. Thank you, Councillor Suttle and Councillor Lacey Clark, for your kind words. Lot to live up to there. And thank you, members, for your support in re-electing me to the office of Chairman of Council. If you will allow me, I'd like to give some more thank yous, starting with Susan Dallison, whose attention to detail and commitment to the job ensures that I'm thoroughly prepared for our meetings. Thank you, Sue. Next is Judy Saunders. You will all know that in the last year we've held 3 civic events at Sherborne Abbey. One arranged at extremely short notice on the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. And the most recent, our service of celebration for the coronation of His Majesty. This has meant a great deal of work for Judy. I hope those of you who attended the service last week would agree that this important event was absolutely outstanding. It was, of course, like the other 2, all down to Judy, whose ability is phenomenal. Judy single-handedly managed every part of the preparation, organisation and delivery of the civic service, even down to putting together tuck boxes for the 40-plus children involved. It's also fair to say I could not have managed to attend over 50 civic meetings and events in the past year without Judy's dedication to the job of organising my diary. Thank you so very much, Judy. I know she's listening in. My grateful thanks go to Councillor Barry Gorringe for his sterling support as Vice Chairman over the last year. In recent months, and since the county opened up from COVID, there's been a huge increase in civic invitations. This has quite often led to Barry and I going to different events at opposite ends of the county on the same day. Barry has been unfailingly cheerful, and I sincerely thank him and Margaret for their good humour and willingness to support me in representing the office of Chairman. He is a true gentleman, and I've been very grateful for his help. Thank you, Barry. On a personal level, I'd like to thank my partner and consort, Graham Isaac, whose encouragement and support for my role as Chairman continues to be unstinting. Thank you, Graham. As I mentioned last year, the memorial area at County Hall was downright embarrassing. And in September last year, the project to update and refurbish the area with the addition of a new COVID memorial and flagpole was completed. I'm extremely grateful to the project officer, Bridget Betts, and to the many employees of the council who literally did the spade work and provided us with a fitting memorial area we can all be proud of. Over the months, I've continued to try and build bridges with our towns and parishes and offer my support. I believe that my efforts to form good relationships are now bearing fruit, as shown in the attendance at the recent civic service of 21 mayors of our county, plus their consorts, enrobed and with the chains of office. It was quite a sight to behold. Lastly, I thank each and every one of you for your goodwill, support and encouragement. It continues to be a huge honour to represent you and Dorset Council, and I will do my very best to uphold our values, aspirations and reputation. Thank you. Right. So agenda item 2 is the election of Vice Chairman. And I'd like to ask for nominations, but first of all, I'm really pleased to propose Councillor William Trite to the office of Vice Chairman. I met Bill when he was Chairman of Purbeck District, and I was Chairman at North Dorset, so I've known him well for around 8 years. Bill was formerly a district councillor for 23 years and a county councillor for 8 years. He is hugely respected for his experience as a chairman and the vast knowledge he has gained over his combined years as a councillor. He's known for being forthright, not unlike myself, actually, helpful and a stickler for procedures being carried out to the letter. All in all, they're enviable traits, which I feel make him an ideal choice for Vice Chairman. Do we have a seconder, please?
Chairman, I'd like to second the nomination of Councillor William Trite, and he has my full support, and I know he'll do a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Do we have any other nominations?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Les Fry, Councillor Les Fry.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton. Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
Thank you, Chair. It's my privilege to second Councillor Les Fry for the position of Vice Chair of Dorset Council. I've known Les for many years and firstly met him when he was the Inspector of Police responsible for the most beautiful town in Dorset, Sherborne, namely. No, it's Dorset, isn't it? And no, he wasn't arresting me at the time. So, over the last 4 years, I've served on several committees with Les, most notably the Licensing Committee, where his experience brought from his professional career has been invaluable. We have served on numerous licensing subcommittees along with the excellent chair of licensing, Emma Parker. Les is also well known in Dorchester and around the council area due to his professional career in Dorset Police and his voluntary work. As a member of the Rotary Club, since 2017, he's organised a Christmas draw making in excess of £50,000 for local charities, the Rotary charities. His volunteer work goes beyond the Dorset Council boundaries. He and his wife Julie help a school and community in Africa, and they support a community under the slopes of Mount Kenya, where they give upcycled laptops and tablets and mobile phones. And Julie, with a friend, has a washable sanitary towel project. They have now seen over 550 girls in about 6 visits. Les has made it known that he would like to be nominated for the post of Vice Chairman of Dorset Council, and me personally, I'd sooner have a willing volunteer than anybody in this non-political position. Electing Les to this position means we would have a well-respected advocate for Dorset Council who can work across party in this council, and Les would be an excellent representative for the council should it needed to be step in for the chairman. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sutton, did you want to add to your proposal?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'll start by saying pretty much what I said last year, because I think it's as true now as it was then. I intend no criticism of Councillor Val Pothecary, who I very much respect, but I firmly believe Dorset Council would serve its residents better if it were chaired by an independent. And Councillor Fry is a true independent. When you scratch the surface, you do not find blue or yellow or red or even green. And given his illustrious 28-year career with the police, his integrity, his diligence, and his sense of fairness, I know he is highly respected across this chamber and would do an excellent job. So I actually wish I were proposing him for chair, but vice chair it is. Senior Conservative Dorset councillors sometimes claim that this council works in a non-political way. But if we are honest with ourselves, we know that isn't true. If this were a meritocracy, just speaking within my own group, I don't think there's any doubt that my colleague, Councillor Heatley, would hold a cabinet seat. Councillor Clayton, as a former firefighter, would have a seat on the Fire and Rescue Authority. And most humbly, I'd like to think I warrant a place on the People and Health Overview Committee, which I've...
Excuse me, Councillor Sutton. I'm not sure this is relevant exactly to your proposal. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor O'Leary, did you have a burning...
Yes. Can I call for a recorded vote, please, Chairman?
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any more? Do we have any more proposals for the office of Vice Chairman? There's lots of muttering going on. I'm sure it will get in the way of people being able to hear. Okay, so I think...
We should clarify the issue of the name vote.
Okay, thank you. We will need 10 or more members to ask for a recorded vote before it'll be applicable. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
8, 9, 10. We have 10.
Okay, thank you. We have 10.
Members, the chairman has asked me to clarify what happens with a recorded vote now. So members will vote on their handsets in the normal way, but the way in which each member voted will then be recorded and set out in the minutes of this meeting. But we won't be reverting back to the way that I think we used to vote in the predecessor councils, where we read out a list of members and you each voted in turn.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. So can we move to the vote, Susan? Thank you. So I'm presuming that number 1 will be for...
It's on the screen.
Ah, there we go. It's on the screen. Please say when to vote, Susan.
Councillor Robinson, would you mind pressing your voting button again, please? Oh, that's it. Yeah, we're done then. Yeah. The results of the vote for election of Vice Chairman, Councillor Biltrite, 41, Councillor Les Fry, 31, and 3 abstentions. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, no applause. Okay. Councillor Tripe, would you like to come and take your seat?
I, William Trite, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Dorset Council, declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of councillors of Dorset Council. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you who gave me your support and I will endeavour to be worthy of it. I would also like to add my thanks to the outgoing Vice Chairman, Councillor Barry Gorringe, for the work that he has undertaken during his period in this office. And finally, I would like to say that I will give every support and all the help I possibly can to our chairman, Val Pothecary. I consider her a most dedicated councillor and an excellent ambassador for this council to the outside world. Again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So we are now on agenda item 3, apologies.
Chairman, apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Janet Dover, Councillor Paul Kimber, Councillor Peter Wharf, Councillor Dave Bolwell, Councillor Mike Parks, Councillor Emma Parker and Councillor Tim Cook.
Thank you, Susan. Agenda item 4 is the minutes. If there are no matters to raise on accuracy, I'll sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of February 2023 as the correct record. Councillor Ezard.
Thank you, Chairman. I just noticed that in the minutes that on the page 2, I believe, where I think Councillor Walsh said something, and I think the last word should have been not what it is. No, I'm afraid I have written it down somewhere, but I can't find it. It said, I think, should give this, if you look on page 2, you'll see it, the penultimate paragraph, the last word.
Can I read it back to you? Would that be helpful? The last word. He added that...
It should be deserved, not reserved.
It should have been deserved rather than reserved. So thank you very much for pointing out that error. Smashing. Thank you very much. With that amendment, I'm happy to sign off the minutes. Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? Thank you. None are shown. So we arrive at the Chairman's announcements, agenda item 6. I only have one announcement to make this evening, and that's by way of congratulations to Councillor Stella Jones. For those of you that don't know, this month Stella is celebrating 50 years as a councillor in a higher tier authority. I know it's a bit difficult for you, Stella, but if you could please step out and approach the front. We would like to... Thank you, Stella. It's a true... Oh, obviously. It's a truly exceptional achievement. And on behalf of the Council, we send our very best wishes. Thank you very much, Stella. And thank you, Jackie, for doing the walk there. Agenda item 7 is the election of leader. Do we have any nominations, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm delighted to propose Councillor Spencer Flower be re-elected leader of this council for a further term. We all know Councillor Flower to be an extremely hard-working councillor. Indeed, if like me, you set your alarm at 6 a.m. and switch on your emails, you will often find that Councillor Flower has already emailed you. You will equally know that if you are a cabinet member, he has high expectations of what you will achieve, as he does for all councillors. But he's sincere in his beliefs. He has always said he would be an advocate for Dorset, and that has been proven in the last year, and no doubt will be proven again in the coming year. Multi-million-pound bids of investment have been secured for Dorset under his leadership, and we're grateful for that. But perhaps I could share a personal moment with you all, which is Spencer's commitment to our wards and his generosity of his time to us as elected councillors of all parties. So whether you serve in Ferndown or in Marshwood Vale, I know he's visited your ward. But I did notice that when he goes to visit Weymouth and Portland in particular, he seems to return with a spring in his step. And whether this is because it rekindles much fond memories of his younger years there or the sea air, I do notice that he always comes back in a buoyed spirit. He enjoys the experience. So this kind of is a challenge, and I'm looking particularly at Councillors Hughes and Cocking on this one. Could you invite Councillor Flower down there, roughly to coincide with the timing of our own cabinet appraisals? Because that may be helpful for the coming year for us in our cabinet posts. We have every confidence that, of course, Councillor Flower will support the work of this council and that as a one council approach that he has taken throughout his time in office. And therefore, I put it to members to support his re-election.
Thank you, Councillor Parry. Do we have a seconder for this proposal, please?
Thank you, Chair. There's very little I can add to what Councillor Parry has said. Unfortunately, he's stolen all possible words, but I just wanted to add my support. I think the one thing that perhaps you didn't mention is that I personally would like to thank Spencer. I think he's a great mentor for anybody that's uncertain, starting out, or just needs a bit of advice, and I'm very happy to support him as leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sort of assuming there are no other nominations, but I need to ask the question. Okay, in which case we elect Councillor Flower as the leader of the council, unopposed. Thank you. I'm sure you'd like to say a few words, Spencer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much, colleagues across the chamber. I've set a standard of saying very little in acceptance speeches, and I won't spoil that tonight, other than just to say thank you once again for your continued support. This is a huge privilege. I'm sure others in this chamber at some point in the future in local government may have the opportunity as well. And I would tell you to take it with both hands, because it is a great privilege to be involved with a leader of a upper tier authority doing the job for Dorset and its residents. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. So agenda item 8 is the appointment of Deputy Leader and Cabinet. So I'll hand you straight back to Councillor Flower. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, you recall that last year I introduced a mission statement which sets out 10 key priorities and the importance of embedding this into council policy to underpin the hugely important council plan. And all of you in this chamber have had an input into that plan at one time or another. The recent refresh has been very helpful and an informative process. I'd like to acknowledge the involvement of members from across the chamber in ensuring that the Dorset plan remains relevant and a living document. You know, we all have this, we call it a Dorset plan. I can remember it being called a corporate plan, but it's a Dorset plan and it shouldn't gather dust. It should be a living document that we use in how we drive the policies of this council forward. You'll all be aware I've made a number of changes to the Cabinet and lead members to underpin the importance that I attach to how the council goes about achieving its key priorities and how these will benefit the people of Dorset. These changes fit well with the 10 Cabinet commitments, which is came across from the mission statement. And I spoke to Matt Prosser and felt that it's all very well writing a mission statement. It really needs to embed it and make it part of what we try to achieve in this council. And I think we should, all of us in this chamber, be very proud of the work we've been doing in the past 4 years. Before I go any further with my announcement, I'd like to wish to reflect on the disappointing news regarding Councillor Peter Wharf. Peter's acted as Deputy Leader of Council since May 2019 and has more recently been the portfolio holder for Adult Social Care and Health. He's done an absolutely incredible job in both roles and he will be very much missed. Peter wrote to me a few weeks ago, announcing that on medical advice he would need to stand down from the Cabinet portfolio and his role as Deputy Leader. I hope you'll all join me in wishing Peter a full and speedy recovery. In doing that, Peter's asked me to make it clear that he will continue to fulfil his role as the local ward member. So I have, all of you will have seen the announcement around the Cabinet changes and the reshuffles and the lead members. I don't think I'm going to dwell too heavily into that tonight, but I will just touch on a couple of things because for one reason or another, and it's something that Peter and I discussed at length about how we related the Cabinet portfolios to the 10 key commitments, and I split one of the portfolios because I felt that we really need to up and this is no disrespect to Tony, he did a great job, but it was a really, really big portfolio, so we split economic development and levelling up away from assets and property, and I believe that's important because, you know, I think for the benefit of the residents of Dorset, we need a Dorset deal. We need a county deal, and hopefully we can get one with BCP, so it becomes a pan-Dorset county deal. The benefits of that are huge from the point of view of inward investment for infrastructure. And that's a topic for another day, Chairman, but I just wanted to touch on it because it is a really, for me, and I hope others will agree with me, a really important facet of how we can get the best outcomes in terms of our belief in wanting economic development and looking after the well-being of the people of Dorset. There's obviously a number of other important roles which we need to fulfil, and I won't go into those tonight, but I will just say that that was the reason behind that decision. I think the other one I want to touch on is the decision around assets and property. Again, a lot of work done by Tony and the team. Slightly different focus now, looking at a different way of doing this because, again, we really do need to up our game. We've got a big estate. A lot of the estate we have, we need to dispose of or repurpose. And for a whole host of reasons, and the pandemic didn't help in this respect, we need to move on at pace now and deal with some of those things that are in the disposals and repositioning programme, but I want to drive that forward now, and I thank Tony for all the work that he did in getting us where we are. So I'd like to take the opportunity as well to thank Graham Carr-Jones and Tony Ferrari for the huge contribution they both made during the past 4 years and wish them well for the future. So as a result of these changes, I've made some changes to the lead members, and what I would say is that we brought in lead members into the Constitution. I got cross-party support for that because I could see the benefits in terms of capacity, particularly around adult social care, children's services, and the wide-ranging portfolio that Ray Bryan's got. That extra capacity has made a huge contribution to achieving an awful lot that we've done on the ground. And indeed, one of the other things I had in my mind was that there was a degree of succession planning in having lead members, and 3 of the colleagues that are now on the Cabinet came through the lead member role. So I think I've made my point on that. So a huge piece of work, a lot of work to be done in the next 12 months, Chairman. Every year is a challenge, and I could easily say, and it's probably the harder challenge we've had before, but I suspect the hardest one we ever had was getting ourselves, as we did, through the pandemic in such a constructive way, dealing with the communities that we all serve and making sure that Dorset Council remain relevant, Chairman. So that's really all I want to say at this point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Did you not want to confirm the following appointments? Deputy Leader, members of Cabinet and lead members?
Well, I can do, but as I said, this has already been issued, but I'm quite happy to just refer to Gary Suttle taking over the role as Deputy Leader and retaining his role as Finance, Commercial and Capital Strategy. Ray Bryan retains his portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment. Jill Haynes, portfolio holder for Corporate Development and Transformation. Andrew Parry, portfolio holder for Assets and Property. Simon Gibson has got the portfolio for economic development and levelling up. I've missed one now. Well, I put it. Jane Somper has taken on the role that Peter had before, with the addition of housing, a portfolio holder for adult social care, health and housing. And Byron Quell has taken on the role that Andrew had, children's education skills and early help. And Laura Miller, nearly last but not least, Laura Miller, portfolio holder for culture and communities. And last but not least, David Walsh, portfolio holder for planning. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that's interesting to anybody that's listening in, actually, who doesn't get the same missives that we get. So, agenda item 9 is announcements and reports from the leader.
Chairman.
Yes, of course.
Sorry to butt in like that. Whilst I don't like the cabinet system and hope we'll change it soon, I'm sad to see Councillor Wharf go. I think he's been a wise head on many matters, and I sincerely hope reduced workload will help him recover his health. Also sorry to see Councillor Ferrari go, partly because it must be helpful to have a member from our largest and poorest conurbation at the top table, despite your dedication to Weymouth, Spencer. Very, very welcome to see some new faces, though, especially Councillor Somper. But it does mean there are still just 4 of the 16 cabinet and lead member roles are held by women. So my question is, why is this the case? And what ideas did the Conservative group have on how to address this going forward? That's the representation of women within the cabinet and lead members. Thanks.
Very happy to respond to that, Chairman. I can recall a conversation very similar to this back in 2019, when there was one woman on the cabinet. And the point I made at the time was that I was looking for, because 6 councillors became 1, and I was looking for some corporate memory on the cabinet at that time to make sure we had that connection from the old regime to the new one. Had every leader of the previous council been women, we would have had 6 women on the council. So gender is important, of course it is. And we've got a lot of experience and skill and knowledge in the chamber and ability in the chamber. And we've now got 3 females on the cabinet. We started with 1. So 3 times more than we started with, I think, is a good start in that direction. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Okay. Agenda item 10, public participation questions and statements. We have a question 1 from Sean Levy.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm sure most councillors here are aware that Historic England, the body that has the statutory authority for heritage buildings, makes clear in its public statements that local government bears the greatest part of responsibility for care and conservation of our historic environment, largely because of its importance in the planning system. And I don't intend to bore you by reciting the many statutory powers that are vested in councils to enable them to fulfil that role. I've got a very simple question, which is I'm requesting details of the action taken by Dorset Council within the past 12 months to proactively safeguard listed buildings, that's grade 1 and grade 2, within the county of Dorset, and to state the number of occasions when the council's statutory powers were used. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. You will receive a response from Councillor David Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Levy, for your question. Maintaining listed buildings is primarily the responsibility of the landowner or occupier. Whilst local authorities have a number of discretionary powers they can be used, this is only undertaken when their options have been exhausted, and it is expedient and in the public interest to do so. In general, we strive to resolve issues in a proactive manner with owners. Whilst the Council has made a number of Section 215 notices in recent years, it has not been considered expedient to issue any in the last 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Our second question will be submitted by Roger White.
Of Dorset Council has made the following statement regarding Newell House in Sherborne. I quote, "Dorset Council is aware of the condition of the Grade 2 listed Newell House, but as there are no active breaches of planning or listed building control, its state of repair is a matter for the property owner to address in the first instance. We have brought this to the attention of the owner and also looked into the scope of using powers under the Town and Country Planning Act to address maintenance of the building. But such action needs to be demonstrably in the public interest, and in assessing this, we must also have regard to the circumstances of the owner-occupier. At this present time, it is considered that such action would not be expedient, but officers will keep the situation under review," unquote. It is very obvious that while it may technically be the responsibility of the property owner to address the very poor and deteriorating condition of Newell House, it is equally clear that the owner in question has created the current situation and has absolutely no intention of taking action, having ignored offers of help from the Sherborne CPRE, for instance. He does not reply to letters, he does not live in the building, and there is no evidence that he has carried out any repairs since it closed as a school in 2000. So this prominently cited listed building has been sitting deteriorating in full view for over 20 years. In the circumstances, I do not see how it can be argued that there are no active breaches of listed building control. Would the Council perhaps find it more concerning and be spurred into action if the owner was replacing the windows in PVC without listed building consent? My question is this: why does Dorset Council continue to be so reluctant to take action over the condition of Newell House? And further, when did anyone from Dorset Council last visit Newell House to assess its condition? And assuming that such a visit took place, what conclusions were drawn? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. The response to this question and the following question will be given by Councillor David Walsh, but I believe Councillor Mary Penfold wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, Chairman. I just would like to draw members' attention that many years ago I did actually teach at Newell House School, but obviously I left before it closed, but I will take no part in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penfold. So we will, in fact, go straight along to the third question from Julia Findletter.
Thank you, Chair. As a residents of Sherborne, we've watched the gradual deterioration of Newell House since it ceased being a school in 2000. The house is rarely, if occupied, and the decline of the property is now accelerating. Vegetation overwhelms the east elevation, some of it growing in through broken windows. The building isn't weather tight, and its fine interiors will soon be in an advanced state of decay. We have raised our concern with Dorset Council, who inform us that they are keeping a watching brief. In recent weeks, a gate to the house was broken into and graffiti was daubed all over the walls of the house. My question is this: given the recent vandalism, which we hope does not lead to further, more serious attacks, precisely how far does the deterioration of Newell House have to go before Dorset Council will take decisive action to prevent further decline? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your question. So we will ask Councillor David Walsh to respond to the previous question and this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the questions raised. Dorset Council is aware of the condition of the Grade 2 listed building Newell House. But as there are no active breaches of planning or listed building control, its state of repair is a matter for the property owner to address in the first instance. We have brought this to the attention of the owner and also looked into the scope of using powers under the Town and Country Planning Act to address maintenance of the building. But such action needs to be demonstrably in the public interest, and in assessing this, we must also have regard to the circumstances of the owner-occupier. At this time, it is considered that such action would not be expedient, but officers will keep the situation under review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Our fourth question was put by Gerald Wriggler, who is unable to attend, so he will receive a written response. Our fifth questioner, in fact, is a statement from Andy Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. It's in regard to the community governance review that's on the agenda and the Ferry Bridge boundary. The officer's report accompanying this item indicates that there is a minded decision to support a change to the boundary despite the submission of Portland Town Council, which has a legitimate reason for putting forward the case as stated. Portland Community Partnership, which supports the Town Council in various areas, in particular the development of the Portland Neighbourhood Plan, had originally made a similar request on behalf of the Town Council, and despite being recognised by the authority, had this submission not formally recorded. However, at the full council meeting on the 14th of July, did conclude that a boundary change was not necessary, and the reference is Agenda Item 24, Appendix 1, Recommendation 31. The subsequent review of Weymouth and the surrounding areas authorised at the full council meeting on the 20th of October, Item 39, Appendix 1, did not formally scope in the Portland Parish and boundary. Nevertheless, Portland Town Council responded in good faith to the request and reiterated the original position. The moving of the boundary will entail unnecessary costs, result in confusion, and could in fact limit opportunities for the area, which are improved by maintaining the current position. Thank you.
Councillor Rennie.
Question. Am I forgetting something? I'm not used to this, that I thought all questions and statements sat there and waited their turn to speak instead of this backwards and forwards in. Has there been a change that we haven't been told about?
It's for security reasons, as far as you will remember, Councillor Rennie. So we do have to manage the situation with members of the public wanting to come and speak.
I do remember, but I thought the previous meeting since then we've had more people sitting waiting their turns.
Okay, thank you. Councillor David Harris, please, for your statement.
I'm here today as Councillor David Harris and leader of Weymouth Town Council, and I'm speaking about the Community Governance Review. Dear fellow councillors, the guidance for CGR makes it very clear that parish and town council wards are the building blocks for the next tier of councils, and that these higher tier council wards are the building blocks for parliamentary seats. Lower tier wards should reflect the communities that people live in and not depend on lines drawn on maps mostly over 100 years ago, or for Dorset Council 4 years ago. This process has not followed these logical requirements. Our electoral communities will still be split because DC wards overlap the boundaries between Chickerell and Weymouth, with parts of the present Weymouth being allocated to the Chickerell DC ward. But we do not need to split town wards, as this proposal does. When the first consultation came out last year, it correctly recognised that Weymouth had expanded since the last review 50 years ago, and that there were estates on the western edge of Weymouth that had crossed the old West Dorset boundary. These communities at Wyke, Littlesea and Cobham Drive, which are marked on the distributed map, were brought together and rightly placed in Weymouth. The new consultation leaves the estates split and communities fractured. When on Dorset County Council, I used to represent the 14 houses in Cobham Drive on the Weymouth side of this line, having to drive past 25 houses in West Dorset to get to some of them. To quote from the guidance in this paper, the purpose of CGR is to produce clearly defined boundaries tied to firm ground features and remove any anomalies. Leaving this unchanged is clearly not doing this. I have just persuaded First Bus to keep a Weymouth Western bus going for another 3 months, which has an impact on all the residents of Cobham Drive. The Chickerell bus could not be involved in the solution, as Cobham Drive is not connected to Chickerell by the road system in any way. The main response by the Town Council, representing 53,000 people, to this flawed consultation was to return to the original external boundaries suggested by DC itself. To achieve this consistency with the logic of the process, community coherence and democratic representation, Weymouth Town Councillors were willing to represent almost double the number of people represented by any other town councillor in the county. We accepted this added burden, knowing that this would join communities together in a sensible way. Wyke, Littlesea and Cobham Drive all look to Weymouth for their services, their parks, their toilets, their open spaces, their shopping, the beach, the seafront. The new residents at Wyke, in Chickerell in this map, have a half a mile to go to the Wyke Health Centre, the Wyke Library, the Wyke Supermarket and the Wyke School. How are they going to relate to Chickerell, whose main area is over 2.5 miles away? Littlesea and Cobham Drive residents have to drive over half a mile through Weymouth to get to the main boundary of Chickerell. Clearly defined boundaries tied to firm ground features and remove anomalies is the purpose of this review. These areas have easy access to Weymouth but are separated from Chickerell by open spaces, industrial estates or other firm ground features. The recommendation before you today is a missed opportunity to restructure our boundaries so they make sense to the people living in them in the 21st century. Although the consultation period was several weeks, the recommendations before you today were agreed by the working group the day after the consultation closed, and so clearly no time was given to consider the alternative views and feedback. And the opportunity for site visits was impossible for valid decisions to be made. Councillor Jill Taylor has her house in Littlesea, Weymouth, but her garden is in Chickerell. She would have willingly hosted the review team to tea so that they could see for themselves the illogic of the plan presented. As town councillors in Weymouth, we were thinking of marching the bounds, but that is impossible because the proposed boundaries still go through so many properties. Weymouth residents deserve proper community boundaries as suggested for Littlemore at the beginning of this paper. The recommendation before you is illogical and contradictory in itself and leaves me wondering what the value of this entire exercise has been. It claims to be using DC ward boundaries as its guiding rule, but then says in paragraph concerning Bingham, for good community governance, the new development and the present split of Nightingale Drive should be in Weymouth. It doesn't say the same for those estates that are elsewhere. It also says the new development that's planned in South Hill will cross the proposed boundary between Weymouth and Chickerell when it's built, leaving another split community in the future. It certainly does not create clearly defined boundaries tied to firm ground features or remove anomalies. I urge you to vote against the recommendation being put before you on the basis that it contradicts itself and fails to join communities together as it is required so to do. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement, Councillor Harris. We will now listen to a statement from Councillor Graham Brandt.
Hello, councillors. I am actually from Bingham Parish, which is part of Winterbourne-Farringdon Group. Winterbourne-Farringdon supported the northward move of the southern boundary of Bingham, where a large-scale development is proposed but not yet built. But they did not support the move of existing properties, particularly Nightingale Drive, into Weymouth Town Council until the Dorset Council Ward and Parliamentary constituency can be similarly realigned. Winterbourne-Farringdon recognised that such a realignment of the ward boundary may impact on carefully constructed electoral equality of Dorset Council's ward boundaries, so may have knock-on effects. As a secondary issue, Winterbourne-Farringdon noted that the loss of such a large proportion of the existing population may make the existing parish grouping unviable, and other forms of representation, such as individual parish meetings, may have to be considered. Dorset Council claimed to have considered this submission carefully, but seemed to have misunderstood the nuances of Winterbourne-Farringdon's position and instead relied too much on Weymouth Town Council's characterisation of it in their submission. With due respect to Dorset Council, the report's conclusion that in the interests of good community governance, the residents of Nightingale Drive area should reside within a single parish and not be split across two different parishes is a logical non sequitur. It is already split by the illogical 1933 boundary, but the large majority currently live in Bingham. The question for the CGR is when and how to bring about a more logical solution. In summary, the position of this council is simply 1. Move the boundary now in all those areas where development has yet to take place. 2. Do not move the boundary in those areas where there is an existing population until the Dorset Council ward and parliamentary constituency can be similarly realigned. And Chairman, if I may just add to that, during this review, our ward councillor has been absent. We have neither heard from him nor seen from him for almost a year. And I will say that Councillor Ireland is aware of that situation. No, it is not Louis. No.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brandt. Thank you. We will now receive a question from Richard Thomas.
Can you hear me, Chair? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My question is for Councillor Spencer Flower. In response to a question from a member of the public at the Council's meeting on the 14th of February, Councillor Flower concluded on the matter of so-called predetermination, quotes, "My encouragement to councillors is to seek advice from the monitoring officer before committing in public to a particular point of view," unquote. This was because Councillor Flower appeared to believe that elected members of Dorset Council are sufficiently feeble of mind that there, quotes, "are dangers in a councillor associating themselves closely with one particular pressure group and speaking after having listened only to that group. And, quotes, doing so can give the impression that they have made up their mind in advance and even that they are speaking on behalf of that group," unquote. The Localism Act 2011, however, makes it very clear that it is an intrinsic part of any elected member's role to, quotes, "engage in an open and rigorous debate with their local communities about council business." Further, the Act, according to the Local Government Association, quotes, clarifies that decision makers will not be taken to have had or have appeared to have had a closed mind when making the decision just because, one, they had previously done anything that directly or indirectly indicated what view the decision maker took or would or might take, in relation to their matter, and 2, that the matter was relevant to the decision. So my question to Councillor Flower is, please, will Councillor Flower therefore admit that his admonition to Dorset members that they must seek the permission of Mr. Mayor, the monitoring officer, before they can voice an opinion in public was wrong and is misguided? And will he accept that an elected member is entitled to any view he or she cares to express in public without having to seek the permission of anyone, whether officer or another member? Will he further accept that to do so is not only lawful, but a basic democratic right in a country that boasts of an individual's right to free speech?
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. We'll receive a response from Councillor Flower.
Thank you very much, Chairman. In response to a question put to me at the February council meeting, I encouraged councillors to seek advice from the monitoring officer about questions of predetermination. I did not ask the question opposed to any councillor should need permission from an officer before speaking publicly. My answer tonight is no different from one I gave in February when I was asked about the distinction between a councillor who is predisposed to a point of view and one who is predetermined in a position. Like anyone else, a councillor can be predisposed to a particular point of view. That is to be expected, and is, I am told, perfectly lawful. What we must not do is approach a decision having already made our minds up in advance and unwilling to listen. There are dangers in a councillor associating themselves closely with one particular pressure group, for example, and speaking about having listened only to that group. Doing so can give the impression that they've made up their minds in advance, and even that they are speaking on behalf of the group. The law around predetermination is complex, with the potential for significant consequences if we get it wrong. My encouragement to councillors is to seek advice on such matters from the monitoring officer before committing themselves in public to a particular point of view. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Question 9 will be received from Tracy Cozzi. Thank you.
Is it correct that democratic, organisational or public participation in council meetings is to be limited in future, and if so, why?
Councillor Flower will respond to this after the next question as well. Thank you. So I'll ask Charles Watts, please, to present question 10.
Thank you very much, Chair. First, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. It is a privilege to speak in front of the full council and one that we don't take lightly, so thank you. The question is, in the report of the review of the public participation rules, the recommendation is that the rules be changed so that the council accepts the first 8 questions and the first 8 statements received only. While I appreciate the council needs to manage the half-hour public participation and thus is unable to do this if an excess of questions and statements are received from residents or organisations, I see no reason why all statements should not be published in full in the agenda and the minutes. Furthermore, it would not affect the management of the public half-hour if any questions in excess of 8, where the resident or organisation requested a response, were to be published in the agenda and the minutes. This would, however, provide the benefit of providing public visibility of all questions asked in council and the responses given and all statements made. So will the council consider changing the proposed procedure rules to allow for all statements to be accepted and published and for all questions to be asked and answered given, whether read out in the meeting or not, to be published in the agenda and the minutes? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. We'll receive a response from Councillor Flower. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you to both of you for asking your questions relevant to tonight, because actually this matter has been discussed by a cross-party working group and considered by Audit and Governance Committee. All members will have the opportunity to debate the recommendation when the report is considered later in the meeting at agenda item 15. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Agenda item 11 is public participation, petitions and deputations, and we've not received any. So moving along, agenda item 12, questions from councillors, and I'm going to invite councillors to ask their questions. Responses will be provided by the appropriate portfolio holder. Question 1, Councillor Les Fry.
Thank you, Chair. Following Natural England's latest report on nitrates in September 22, the vast majority of planning applications are still stuck, unable to proceed. Developers are asking for advice and guidance from Dorset Council. Firms are becoming concerned about their staff as they scrabble about to find work to keep them employed. They don't want to let them go, as they will be needed when applications are approved. Much needed homes are not being built due to the delay in granting consent. An amendment to the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill will require the upgrade of all sewage treatment works serving more than 2,000 people. But this decision may still be a way off. Can a regular update on the advice and guidance from Dorset Council for developers be given so that jobs will not be lost, please?
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Walsh will respond.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you very much for the question, Councillor Fry. This is very, very relevant. We all appreciate that. There are 5 catchment areas for internationally protected wetland habitats within or overlapping with Dorset Council's administrative area, where phosphorus and or nitrogen levels have the potential to adversely affect water quality. Dorset Council has a legal responsibility to ensure that any development it permits will not adversely affect the integrity of any internationally protected site. The largest and most significant catchment area affecting the Dorset in terms of geographical area and housing application is Poole Harbour. And Dorset Council has in place an adopted strategy to mitigate the impacts of nitrogen from new residential development. However, the advice from Natural England in September 2022 confirmed that phosphorus is also an issue in Poole Harbour. The Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill is proposing measures which will require improvements to wastewater treatment works, which, if enacted, will go a significant way to mitigating phosphorus impacts. However, as drafted, there is a risk that smaller treatment works would not be in scope, and so the leader of Dorset Council has written to the Secretary of State to request that all necessary wastewater treatment works in the Poole Harbour catchment are within scope of the intended improvements. And officers have held subsequent meetings with government departments, Natural England and Wessex Water. To look at this further, government is giving careful consideration to Dorset Council's position, and the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill is anticipated to receive royal assent during the summer, at which point we hope to have greater certainty, Sorry, my computer's gone. Treatment works. Government is giving careful consideration to Dorset Council's position, and the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill is anticipated to receive royal assent during the summer, at which point we hope to have greater certainty to offer applicants and developers. In the meantime, officers are continuing to work proactively to look at finding solutions, including working with registered providers to deliver mitigation to existing housing stock to provide additional capacity for affordable housing units, engaging with DLUC to seek additional funding to bring forward mitigation, and investigating mitigation options outside the Poole Harbour catchment in partnership with neighbouring authorities. Our website contains information on the latest position, and we will continue to provide updates and guidance as the situation evolves. Thank you, and my apologies, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. We have a further question from Councillor Les Fry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We seem to be going headlong down the electric car route without much consideration of the impact on the climate and our planet. Electric cars emit no pollutants, so that's all right then. We need electricity to charge our cars, and we know that here in Dorset we are short of sufficient power for our commercial needs, with some businesses unable to settle here in Dorset due to the lack of electricity. We also seem to be totally ignoring the impact on the environment with the significant mining required and precious metals needed to build our batteries. See the Channel 4 programme on mining in the Congo. I am aware of a possible alternative battery using ceramic instead of lithium, which is an exciting prospect. We know that electric-powered vehicles are not suitable for agriculture, heavy industry, or road haulage, to name just a few examples. Fossil fuel-powered vehicles are being phased out in a few years from 2030 onwards. As yet, they do not seem to have a suitable alternative fuel source. What is Dorset Council doing to explore an improved electric supply to the county and alternative fuel sources, such as hydrogen or others? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fryer. Councillor Ray Bryan will respond.
Councillor Ray Bryan's creaking on his feet tonight, so apologies. Thank you for the question, Les. As always, it's such an important item for us to continue to keep discussing. Road transport is the UK's highest emitting sector, and decarbonising is a strategic priority for this council. EVs will be central, but they are not a panacea and will be pursued alongside enabling alternative fuelled vehicles, boosting vehicle occupancy and facilitating modal shift. Our strategy for replacing vehicles is two-pronged. EVs for the smaller vehicles and alternative fuels for the larger vehicles like HGVs or tractors. Plant and equipment also falls into this category. We have taken great steps forward on the smaller vehicle fleet, having recently expanded our EV pool car fleet substantially and replaced several small vehicles with EVs, and have plans for further expansion over the coming years. To support this, we are expanding the EV infrastructure, such as the 14 new charge points here at County Hall, and exploring rolling this out to other council sites. And through the Levi funding from government, we will strengthen the EV network across the county. The larger vehicles within the fleet are more challenging, but we have been actively exploring a range of technologies to include trials on EV waste vehicles by exploration of hydro-treated vegetable oil, biomethane-powered vehicles, and engaging with the private sector, including vehicle manufacturers, on developing the prospects for local deployment of hydrogen. Additionally, we have been supporting the South West first green hydrogen manufacturing facility by Camford Renewable Energy through our Low Carbon Dorset programme. I have, during the last month, made 2 visits to the new hydrogen production facility at Camford Renewables. Later this month, a group of us are visiting a company in Birmingham, God's country, by the way, to view how they handle the distribution of hydrogen to refuelling stations across the UK. Tech and policy, and I've always stated this very clearly to everybody, technology is going to help solve some of the problems, but not all. It will require a fair amount of cash. Tech and policy is rapidly evolving on alternative fuels, and much is dependent on government's wider hydrogen strategy. Trials and market development, costs, infrastructure deployment, and fuel production capacity will continue to keep an eye on opportunities and continue engaging with manufacturers as the situation evolves to nurture a suitable role for alternative fuels alongside EVs. Grid capacity in Dorset is a concern for the deployment of low-carbon technologies such as EVs, although National Grid have given assurances that it will be robust to cope with increased demands for EVs. We are actively engaging with network operators and supporting them to anticipate need to support their strategic investment in a local, efficient and responsive grid. I'm going to add, it was with great disappointment that I received notification only a few days ago that the situation with the grid, they are giving quotations now for connection to the grid of 2036. Believe me, we as a council are going to do everything we can in this area to get that turned around, because we can't wait for that. We have our responsibilities to deal with. We've set a target of 2040 to make Dorset Council carbon neutral. I intend to make sure, whilst I'm still breathing, that we continue to push every button we have to win that case. But thanks for the question, Les.
Thank you for that passionate response. Councillor Bryan. Question 3 is from Councillor Matt Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. Would Councillor Bryan, as the relevant portfolio holder, provide a figure for the number of residents who had their parking permits renewed by taking a payment a week before the renewal date, and with the important bit, with no form of reminder being sent? Would the portfolio holder agree that, considering the current cost of living crisis, that lack of any form of reminder was in hindsight a mistake? This question has come about because a resident contacted me because she makes sure to the nth degree that she has enough money to pay the bills. So when something goes out that she doesn't know anything about, it leaves her in a big mistake and a big mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Bryan will respond to you as well.
Councillor Hall, is this your leaving present to me? We do send out renewal reminders for all our permits by email. We have not had any contact relating to the issue that you've raised, which gives me a bit of a difficulty in answering your question. We don't set up accounts on auto-renewal because some people won't want to renew. The customer has to opt into the system when they apply for the permit. I'm desperately seeking what has gone wrong on this, and I'm seeking your help to give me more information so that we can go through the system and see whether there was something in the system that has failed. Without that information, I'm a little bit stuck. Any details that you can come up with, if you could forward them to Mike Westwood, who, as you know, is Head of Parking Services, and he will keep me fully informed as to whether we have a problem or not. I can confirm that Devon County Council use a similar system to the one we use, My Permit. I'm very grateful to Councillor Hall for bringing this to my attention, because I looked at the permit costs in Devon and Exeter in particular. And I found that a 1 month car park permit in Devon is £125, 1 month. A 6 month permit is £750, and a 12-month permit is £1,500. It just shows how well we are doing, but it does show how much car park costs are growing. But I thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. I get the feeling that agenda item 14 is going to be fairly contentious. 13, sorry. So I'm minded to bring forward agenda item 14 first, and then we can have a 15-minute break, and then we can come back for the battle. So agenda item 14, please, is appointments to committees, election of chairman and vice chairman. So, Jonathan, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, I will try to keep this brief. 3 recommendations in the report. The first relates to the approval for 2023-24 of the allocation of committee seats in accordance with political balance rules, appointments to ordinary committees, appointments to joint panels and boards, as nominated by the political group leaders. The second recommendation is that I should be given a delegated authority in consultation with the relevant group leader in each case to make in-year changes to the memberships of committees, joint panels and board appointments. And then the final recommendation is the appointment of committee chairman and vice chairman for 2023-24, as set out in the in Appendix 4. And Chairman, I was going to suggest that unless there are any indications from members now of additional nominations other than those set out in Appendix 4, you simply take those en bloc. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm going to ask Councillor Spencer-Flower to propose the recommendations A to C. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I'm happy to do what Jonathan suggested, and I'll propose the recommendation in full as set out in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I will ask Councillor Les Fry to second the proposal.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this. Yeah, it is what it is. I think we have to accept it as it is. I would repeat what Councillor Sutton said. It's a shame that the Greens have not got another seat there, but I support it as it is for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. So I'm going to ask you to vote on this, please.
Councillor Alex Brenton, would you mind voting for us again, please? 46. And Councillor Robin Legg, would you mind voting again for us, please? You'll be leaving now. 46. Just 46. Oh. Is it Councillor Legg gone out? I think he's gone out the room. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 69 in favour, 3 against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much, Susan. It is 8 minutes to 8. Could I ask for you to be back in your seats by 5 minutes past? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please take your seats immediately. Then we can crack on. So we return to agenda item 13, CGR. Councillor Spencer-Flower will present the report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I'm going to start off by assuming everybody's read it. Look at that, all nodding yeah. Right, okay. I'm glad you have, because I was going to mention that this is 2 years on from when we started this process. This isn't done yesterday, last month, last year even. It was started 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we went through the process, the task and finish group, and I'm very grateful for the leaders and deputy leaders of the other groups on this council, Chairman, in the very productive way in which we all work together in dealing with this. It's always a challenge doing a community governance review, and I've been involved in 1 or 2 of them in the past. And they can be contentious, because actually you end up not being able to please everybody. If you please the majority, then you've made some progress. And I think that's where we are now. And we made a decision to separate Weymouth, I think for good reasons, and one of the group parishes, because there needed to be a bit more work done. And then we approved all the rest of the community governance review across Dorset, using the same guidance that we all agreed as a task and finish group in accordance with the local, I'm labouring this point for a reason, in accordance with the local government commission's guidance. And I know that the manager of the Democratic Services checked to make sure us having made that decision, that it was compliant, and there are certain bits of flexibility in there, but we exercise that flexibility in a consistent way across the whole of Dorset. And I made the point more than once, I may have made it in this chamber, that you can't then start adjusting the guidance to suit a particular area of Dorset. That wouldn't be right. I think we need to be consistent, and we have been consistent up to now. And it's interesting, as I said, 2 years ago we had two public consultations. We then agreed, apart from Weymouth, we took Weymouth out. We had two consultations on the Weymouth situation. And indeed, the last one we did, we firmed up on a recommendation of 24 members. Again, agreed a consensus across the leaders and deputy leaders on the basis of feedback from the public consultation and comments made earlier by Weymouth Town Councillor in his statement. I've heard it all before. I've seen it all before. It was put through the process and considered, and it was not agreed, because one of the things we've managed to do in this, and it says we need to try and have town or parish councils that warding are coterminous with the upper tier authorities warding. And most of the time that works. The problem with Weymouth was that back in 2018, when the Local Government Boundary Commission warded Dorset, they approved their warding. I know we had a big hand in it, but they approved the warding, but didn't take account of the Weymouth Town Council warding that was going on at the same time. So when you bring the two together, they don't quite work. There's issues around cutting across ward boundaries and so on. And basically, the criteria we agreed as the working group was we would stick with, and we've been encouraged to do this by the Boundary Commission, to stick, we don't start changing Dorset Council warding. However, what we've done in the proposition that's before us tonight, we've used a bit of pragmatism. We've allowed one or two to just go across because it works. You get that community engagement, you get that broad basis of the vote, equal vote across all the 24 wards in the councils in them, or 24 councils. Now some of them are double wards and so on. So what I'm saying to you all tonight is that there comes a point when you run out of road, and I think we've got to a point now. We've given everybody an opportunity to get involved in consultation. I think I recall, Jackie, the last consultation we had 125 or so responses in a population of, well, 50,000 or more. A huge. So the difference, so the general concern in involvement with the population in doing warding, whilst many of us in this chamber will consider it to be important, and it should be, because it's democracy, I don't think we've got anything in front of us tonight in the formal submission that I'm about to propose that we shouldn't support, because we've done all the work. And if we come in at the last minute with something completely different, what does that say about the democratic process? What does that say about all the work that officers in this council, diligent work, members in this council have gone through a process, a good process, a democratic process, and we've reached a conclusion, Chairman. So on that point, I will move the recommendation as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Do we have a seconder, please?
Yes, Chairman, Councillor Mark Roberts. I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. Actually, Councillor O'Leary put his hand up. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. It has been an ongoing thing. It's been a particularly long fought thing for me. And I come here tonight with an amendment to the plan. I hope you've all read it. It's some 3,000 words, and it's based on the guidance. The guidance around community governance reviews stipulate three real things that are important. Good electoral equality. My amendment provides the best electoral equality of any plan or any amendments put forward. The second one is good governance. My plan stops anomalies like Littlemore being separated over two parliamentary constituencies and over 2 Dorset Council boundaries, and some of the anomalies the gentleman, Councillor Brandt, mentioned earlier. The third is community cohesion. My residents have overwhelmingly opposed any attempts to move the area to our north in with us as a ward. They've done this via the consultation, various ones, I think they're fed up of doing them, a packed out residents meeting where we filled the community centre, and through other methods. A community governance review is about listening to the community and doing what's best for them. My amendment does that. I do thank the officers for all the work they've done and to Councillor Flower and the working group. I'm aware a number of people on the working groups supported my amendment, but not a majority. But I still must bring this forward here tonight. It's a very parochial issue, I make no doubt about that. But it's an important issue for us, and I ask those to support my amendment, or if they don't understand it or particularly care about it affects them, to abstain if they don't. But I would ask for their support. I'm not known for being a very good compromiser or being particularly easy to deal with. However, I'm in an unusual position where my plan is the great compromise. It gives Chickerell what it wants. It gives Littlemore residents what it wants. It tries to give other residents across Weymouth what it wants. It's been through the consultation. It received support in the consultation. It makes sense. So I ask members to support my amendment. Like I say, it's very unusual for me to be the great compromiser, but I ask you to join me with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Do you have a seconder for your amendment?
Thank you, Louise in luck. I do second this amendment. He covered most of the key points, but this is a fantastically precise electoral balance, the best of the options, is heavily supported by the residents in our community and generates community cohesion. I heartily commend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the amendment, please? Sorry. Councillor Legg, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Besides being the Dorset councillor for the Dorset ward of Upwey and Broadway, I'm also the town councillor in Weymouth for the town council ward of Upwey and Broadway, which is not the same boundary as Dorset Council 1. For example, the housing area between the new Relief Road, I'll call it new, I know it's been there 12 years, but nevertheless it's known as new. The housing estate between them, that road, and the railway is actually in Littlemore and Preston, Dorset Council. It's Lit 1, it's called, the postal area, polling area. Yet that area, that polling area, is in the Upwey and Broadway Town Council ward. And I find it difficult to get to that sometimes on the basis, I'm coming to it, Councillor O'Leary, I suspect, that I have to go through just one road, but that road actually is in Weymouth that goes under the bridge. The new area that is being developed, or started to being developed now, which Councillor O'Leary objects to, and is shown on his map that he's produced on page 8, if you look at that map, or even look at an ordinary regular map, you will see that the area around Nightingale and other roads in that zone clearly communicate with Weymouth. You can't get out of that estate without going into Weymouth. And therefore, I think it's correct that I'm opposing the amendment, of course, that the original proposal on this aspect is correct in putting it into Weymouth. But when you come and look at the other areas, that doesn't apply, but I will talk about that later on. Having the ward that's yet not developed, but is being built, has started now, that part of it going into Upwey and Broadway, if you look at the map, it is a totally ridiculous place to put it. The only way you can get from that section, the new development, into the existing Upwey and Broadway as recommended in here, is by going into Weymouth. In fact, you have to go into Littlemore to get to the other part. So therefore, in my opinion, it is ridiculous to put the new development, which is what this amendment is proposing, in with Upwey and Broadway Town Ward. They don't go together. They've got no similarities whatsoever. There's more in common between the new development and the existing Littlemore. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Legg. Do we have any more comments, please, to make? So, yes, sorry. Councillor Heatley.
Councillor Heatley, Rodwell and Wyke. I live in Councillor Legg's ward. I would then be in this bizarre position of being joined to this little island north of Littlemore. It's just nonsense. It is separated from what everyone else thinks is Upwey and Broadway. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councillor Heatley. Anybody else? Councillor O'Leary, you have spoken on this, I'm afraid.
He gets a chance to come back at the end if there's no other speakers.
If there's no other speakers. Sorry. Excuse me a second. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. So that's all right. I must correct some points. Councillor Legg said I oppose this coming into Weymouth and Weymouth. No, I didn't. I actually think this area should come into Weymouth. I'm voting for that. I'm proposing that. I'm supporting that. I support putting it in with Upwey and Broadway because it would provide his residents with better representation on the town councils. I'm actually fighting for your residents on this regard. To say it's an island is ridiculousness. The key is in the word, community governance. Communities should be the building blocks of this. No resident from Littlemore, in the formal consultation, has supported the proposals that they are supporting in regards to moving that area. If they think they know best, then that's up to them. No resident in Upwey and Broadway has objected to this proposal. In fact, there's been residents from Upwey and Broadway I'm aware of who's filled the consultation in support of my plan. I'm afraid if I have to point that out, then, I'm afraid that might be their opinion, but the others, the views of the community speaks for themselves. And I still commend on the numbers, on the boundaries. Upwey and Broadway will be going into West Dorset. So will the area north of Littlemore. That's why I'm proposing to put them together. And that's not a move I support in regards to moving it into West Dorset. But that's not down to us, I'm afraid. So that's why good governance, good electoral equality, good community cohesion, the three main things going for it. I've read the guidance, I know the facts. I could probably get a job in community governance reviews now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Leary. If nobody else wishes to speak on this amendment, I will ask Councillor Flower if he's got anything further to add before we go to the vote.
Not really, Chairman. It's not my amendment. I think we need to take the amendment as read, and I've got the original proposition. So
we will now move to the vote.
Point of order from Councillor.
The vote is now open.
Excuse me, we have a point of order. Excuse me, Councillor O'Leary, that's not a point of order, and I won't allow it. Thank you. We will go to the vote now.
Members, the vote is now open. Please vote again, even if you previously had voted. Thank you. Councillor Dyer, please could I ask you to vote again? Thank you. Oh, it's gone now. Thank you. Thank you. The results of the vote are 41 in favour, 28 against and 5 abstentions. It's carried.
So the amendment is carried and becomes the substantive motion. Do we have any further amendments, please? Over here. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Councillor Hope, representing the Western Ward in Weymouth. I will note, as Councillor Legg did, I am also a town councillor for Weymouth Town Council. However, I haven't taken part in any discussions or debates at the town level. I had hoped this evening to propose an amendment that would put forward the Weymouth Town Council suggestion. However, I've been advised that I'm not allowed to fully change the motion without it going to consultation. So, I'm hoping the words will come up on the screen as I provided them earlier to Democratic Services. But my amendment is that the Dorset Council should adopt the draft recommendations for the purposes of a community governance review. The revised parish and ward boundaries identified in the map Appendix A and the ward names and councillor numbers set out in the table below. The draft recommendation should then be published for further consultation for 8 weeks. And the result of the consultation, together with the proposed final recommendation, to be reported back to full council on the 12th of October 2013. Sorry, 22-23. Still getting used to the new glasses. The reasons for this, I'm not going to repeat all of what the Honourary Alderman, Councillor David Harris, has already said, but there's inconsistencies. We're told by Councillor Flower that the same rules have been applied to each town and parish. So I question, how come Bridport Town Council got their request for the extension to bring communities together? We've heard that the Littlesea estate, which is isolated from Chickerell, has to gain access to their homes through Weymouth. They have no direct links to Chickerell. The same with Cobham Drive. It's absolutely ludicrous also that the planned development for Southfield, which again will use Southfield's community services, again, as Councillor Louis O'Leary says, community being the key word there within this review, will also be in Chickerell, despite the fact they've got no links to Chickerell. So I therefore request that this council supports my recommendation and amendment and takes a serious note of communities. And I really feel the only way we're going to resolve this is actually by carrying out these community governance reviews for the 3 tiers all together, because it makes sense. But where we are today, we need to think of our communities, and I don't believe the recommendation before us, as it currently stands, does that.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. Do you have a seconder for your amendment? Thank you.
Thank you. Could I second Councillor Hope's amendment, and could I reserve the right to speak later, please?
Yes, you may, Councillor Taylor. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to this amendment? Sorry, Councillor Flower and then Councillor O'Leary.
Well, if I've got this right, the amendment is one of the 2 options that Weymouth Town Council put forward, and not an option that went forward in the last public consultation, because the working group rejected both those options because they didn't apply with the guidance that we've used across the rest of Dorset. And while I'm standing, I'll just point out the comment that you've made, and I get that. Bridport absolutely stuck to the guidance as issued by this council, absolutely had constructive conversations with their immediate neighbours and reached an agreement which they were all eventually able to support. So, and in fact, I've said in this chamber more than once how exemplar the way in which Bridport Town Council went about dealing with this particular topic. And to me, it's an example that everybody else can follow. I won't be supporting this recommendation. And picking up the point that was made during and to pick up some of the points that Ryan's made, and not wrong, like, oh, beg your pardon, just picking up the point that he made about this and David, Councillor Harris said in his statement, if you look at page 47, there's some words in there beyond what happens this evening that recognises the fact, because you've got this disconnect between the warding of the town council and the warding of Dorset Council, because they took place at a similar time, and we weren't able to do the building blocks that you would normally apply. We've got a hook in here that says, beyond this evening, beyond the approval of recommendation, that there should be a further community governance review to time it, probably in a couple of years' time, similar time around when we probably need to do a ward boundary review as well. If you do a community governance review in Weymouth, we can use those wards as the building blocks for the review of Dorset warding. That gets rid of some of the anomalies that we're dealing with tonight. We've been pragmatic about how we've dealt with that tonight. I think there's a practical proposition on the table, whether it was the original proposition or whether the amendment that we've got on the table, the first amendment, I think they're both perfectly acceptable and enables us to move on and actually recognise that 2 years is an awful long time to be dealing with a topic like this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Hope mentioned a lot about community and bringing communities together and the support of the community. I'd like to ask who supports your plan. It was rejected almost unanimously by the cross-party working group. It was rejected by the people of Littlemore in the public consultation. It was rejected by the people of Chickerell. It was rejected by Chickerell Town Council and was only supported by around 10 out of 29 of Weymouth Town councillors, most of whom, including a councillor for Upwey and Broadway, Councillor Northam, abstaining on it or voting against it. Who supports your plan? The definition of insanity is apparently doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, or to quote the good book, a dog will return to its vomit and a fool will return to his folly. With time, we snap out of this and get on with it, and let's just move on. The community do not want your plan. It's been consistently rejected. Now let's get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Despite people thinking them of a great age, I don't remember 1936, which you mentioned earlier on, Councillor Flower. I do remember 1974, when a lot of these Weymouth wards were devised and housing estates were split. And one point is, just because they got it wrong then, we've had a number of opportunities to change it. And I'm quite sure in 1974, people were saying, why does that boundary go through that estate? It doesn't make any sense. And somebody else said, oh, well, we can put it right in a couple of years' time. And they probably said it again in 2018. And now we're saying it now. It's not quite right now, but we'll put it right in a couple of years' time, and they'll be saying that in 2030 and 2040 and 2050. We have an opportunity to put some of these things right now. The reason that Littlemore had so much support and so much consultation was because it was 500 houses, and I get Councillor Leary's point on that, absolutely. Wyke and Cobham Drive, we're talking about quite small numbers of houses, but small numbers of houses that are really, really affected by the fact that neighbours live in different voting authorities. So one neighbour's councillor will be different from another one, and they don't know who that is. That accounts for Cobham Drive. Littlesea Estate, it's 2/3 of the estate, which is totally, you have to walk across fields, marshy areas, through woods in order to get to Chickerell. You can't get to it any other way other than right the way around by car. It has no connection with Chickerell. In my own ward in Wyke, there's a tiny new estate. Again, you cannot access it in any other way than going through Weymouth. And the people, when they bought their houses there, were emailing me saying, I'm moving into Wyke. Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? Because you will be my councillor. Imagine their confusion when I said, actually, no, I won't. Your councillor will be the Chickerell councillors. But I'm not moving into Chickerell. Their postal address is Wyke. It's an anomaly that we can fix now. We've got the opportunity to do it, and I really wish that we would. Let's not wait another 2 years. Certainly let's not wait another 10 years. It's just the time is right to do it now.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. Councillor Dunseith.
Thank you, Chair. I find Councillor Hope's amendment to be totally without merit. It's also last minute, and it seems to me it's a bit desperate. Councillor Flower says this has been going on for 2 years. Well, I certainly know that the consultations have been going on for 1 year, over 1 year. And we've had 3 separate consultations. Now, almost at the last minute, Weymouth seem to have come up with their original proposal again. So the 3 consultations have gone nowhere. We've gone round and round. Their original proposals have previously been rejected. They're not even on this original, the first proposal that we had in front of us now. This proposal lacks a democratic mandate. I've knocked on doors of a whole estate. Councillor Worth has leafleted estates to gauge opinion. I actually have to say, Weymouth, all is not lost. I did find one person who said, yeah, it'd be all right. So you've got a little bit of support there. This isn't how democracy works. You don't have the agreement of the people of Chickwell. Chickwell is not up for grabs. We're not a pick and mix. Oh, we'll have this, we'll have this, oh, we'll have that bit over there. That's not democratic. I won't be voting for this last-minute idea. To me, it lacks depth, quality, and insight. There is no nuance to this or consideration of the people you want to take into another local government town area. I'm sure Chickwell Town Council would be delighted to hear, because of you and your proposal, that their town council will go down from 10 elected local representatives to 8. Have you told them? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunseith. Councillor Worth.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, my colleague, Councillor Dunseith, has put the point very eloquently. However, I would like to add that I think the residents are suffering from consultation fatigue now. They've put in their opinions on 2 separate occasions, and the opinion has been to reject any takeover or land grab by Weymouth Town Council for their properties. Councillor Weller talked about small numbers. Some of the small numbers outside of Cobham Drive and Littlesea Estate that are in Weymouth could easily move to Chickwell, because that's where the small numbers are, not moving vast numbers as Weymouth would like to see. We did have a consultation with Weymouth Town Council. Alderman Harris was part of that consultation, and we did propose between the two of us a formula that we thought would be a compromise. Chickwell Town Council, we went back to the Town Council, and they accepted that compromise on the proviso that Weymouth would also accept it. Weymouth Town Council came back with, we want the 500 houses, and that's our position. So that shows you how intransient members of Weymouth Town Council are, and I am absolutely astounded
that they have the nerve to come in at this last minute with the proposal that has been consulted on ad infinitum. So I obviously will not be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Worth. If nobody else wishes to speak, I'm going to ask Councillor Taylor. Sorry.
Yes.
Right. To give your a seconder's response before we go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and can I congratulate you on being elected again for this second year, or third year, is it? Very much appreciated. I think that's a brilliant move. We've heard all sorts of things in response to this amendment, but what I would say is we've also heard comments that it's been consulted on and we've been working on it for 2 years. It was around about 2 years ago that Weymouth put this submission. It's around 2 years ago that Weymouth put this submission in. So, and it wasn't listened to. And we have gone round and round in circles on this, and we have got so many maps on it that we said, well, we'll go right back to where we started from. If I can refer you to the maps in the amendment, I think that is the most important bit for me, because it actually demonstrates what we're trying to do with this. And if you look on the first map, you can see quite clearly, this was done by, we've got a mapping expert on Weymouth Town Council who really does some brilliant work. And he's looked at it at groups of electors and put that map together on where all the electors are. And it's fairly obvious where the lines should be. If you go onto the second map, you've got the same sort of thing there. And it shows you exactly where the line should be, where communities are. What I would like to point out is I bought my house in 1979, and the solicitor who worked with us, I still remember it to this day, he was laughing his head off, because what he said to me was that if you want to build a garage, build it in the end of the garden, not at the, next to the house, because you're more likely to get planning permission from West Dorset District Council and Chickerell than you are from Weymouth and Portland. And that is how ludicrous it's been for the last 40, 50 odd years. I think Councillor Weller had some extremely good points. I know these will be reviewed again in the future, but I've got no anticipation, no anticipated hope that they will even change then, because I've been round this thing so many times and had the same answer every time. This isn't a last-minute recommendation at all. It's been on the table for a long, long time. And it has gone round and round in circles. But what I would do is go right back to square one, which is what we've done with this, and just refer you to what it says in the Community Governance Review. And what it says is that the purpose of a Community Governance Review is to produce clearly definable boundaries tied by firm ground features, which is what this does. It's really interesting that the Chickerell councillors say they've gone all the way around talking to people. So can they please explain why I've even today had a phone call from somebody on St Patrick's saying, I'm your councillor, can I do this? I get this all the time. I've even had a resident who lives just around the corner from me who bangs my door, and it doesn't matter how many times I tell her I am not her councillor, she doesn't believe me, because this is the crazy situation we're in. I was rather sad that the working group didn't come and visit my house, because I could show you just how stupid the boundaries are going into Littlesea. So please, I do urge you to go forward with this amendment, because to me, this is a one-in-a-lifetime chance. We will not get another chance at this. I know, I've been around too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. We will now go to the vote on this amendment.
The vote is now open. One moment, councillors. The vote is now open. Thank you. Councillor Penfold, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. Councillor Molly Rennie, please could you cast your vote again? Councillor Belinda Rideout, would you mind casting your vote again, please? Yeah, thank you. The vote's now closed. The results of the vote on the amendment are those in favour 27, those against 45, 2 abstentions. The amendment is lost.
Thank you, Susan. So we return to the substantive motion that was in fact the result of our first amendment. I understand that Councillor Cocking would like to make another amendment.
Sorry, I was going to say I apologise, Councillor Flower, because I know you love Portland so much, and mine doesn't actually affect any residents, it's just the sea life. With reference to agenda item 13 and page 48, firstly, I fully support the statement from Mr Andrew Matthews. Weymouth's submission included a suggestion. I highlight the word suggestion is to extend the boundary from the centre of the now demolished old ferry bridge to the centre of the existing ferry bridge, some 100 metres to the south. During all the time that this government review proposal has been in progress and a working group set up, Portland was not mentioned in the front page of the report packs. It only stated parishes in the Vale of Allen Group, the Winterbourne-Farringdon Group, Chickerell and Weymouth. Portland was never in the scope of the working group when it was first established, but later, as Weymouth had made a suggestion, then it had been included. Portland Town Council objected to this. Part of their objection is the 2021 update of the MPPFF, including wording policy, which encouraged planning groups to seek out opportunities to support renewable energy. Paragraph 156, local planning authorities should support community-led initiatives for renewable and low-carbon energy, as set out in the February 2023, the Portland Neighbourhood Plan has a specific enabling policy concerning renewables, and the associated text specifically mentions the Ferry Bridge area. If the request by Weymouth Town Council is approved, it could compromise this early opportunity by splitting the administrative area of the fleet entrance between the two councils. If this proposal is supported, what would happen to the royal manor status of that land? Has the court leet been consulted, as they are custodians of the land? I quote from the court leet: Portland is a royal manor. Its main concerns are to maintain and administer the commons on the land. There are 2 types of common land, freehold and crown common land. This second type includes Ham Common along Portland Beach Road. Its statement has been the same for hundreds of years and still exists, and that is safeguarding and protecting the common land against encroachments and abuse. This is my objection to this proposal of the encroachment on Portland from Weymouth. I am proposing an amendment to the boundary line around Ferry Bridge that it remains as it is in the current boundary line. No properties fall within this. Therefore, there will be no impact on electoral equality as a result of my proposed amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Cocking. Do we have a seconder for your proposal? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rob Hughes, Portland. I very much wish to second Councillor Cocking's proposal. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Do we have... I think Councillor O'Leary would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just want some clarification. My amendment was an amendment to the plan put forward by Councillor Flower, based mainly on the boundaries to the north. I was happy to accept the ward names put forward in his in the proposal put forward by Dorset Council. But can I ask, is Councillor Cockin's amendment and changing the boundary on my amended plan or the original plan? I'm just a bit confused.
It'll be on your amended, your amendment, which was supported.
That's fine. Thank you very much. I'm happy to support them.
Councillor Lacey-Clark.
I'm happy to defer to the leader to speak first. I think he just signalled and he might answer my question before I ask it.
Councillor Flower. Always.
If I recall, during the course of the review, this was more a sort of a tidying up rather than it's sort of more de minimis in the whole scheme of things. And quite frankly, I don't think we need to have another 5-hour debate about whether Ferrybury should be in or out of the Weymouth boundaries. So I'm quite happy, as long as the proposer is, to accept the amendment that, or suggestion that's come from Susan, and that we accept that slight tweak back to where it was, as it is today. And I don't think that's going to be detrimental to any aspects of the review that I hope members in this chamber will now support. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anybody else proposing to speak? Councillor Legg.
Thank you very much. I wish to oppose this on the basis that it is a tidying up, as Councillor Flowers just mentioned. There was, for example, another area of tidying up which we've approved and agreed with, and that was that when you went up, or when you go up still, because we haven't actually enacted it yet, up to the Ridgeway from the roundabout near Littlemore, as you approach near the top of the Ridgeway, just before you get to the bridge, there's a bit of land there on the right which comes under Weymouth and Portland, because historically that's where it always has been. But it was quite clear and obvious that nobody occupied that, nobody lived there, and there was no businesses there, and therefore it'd be better if the road was the boundary, and that little bit was transferred from Weymouth to Winterbourne Farrington. That's part of the proposal in here. So if it happens there, why can't it happen further south on the boundary between Weymouth and Portland? Because originally the old bridge had to be renewed, and the best way of renewing it was to create a new bridge about 100 yards further in towards Portland. And therefore they could put the new bridge in and then later on remove the old bridge and fill it in. And it's that bit between the two bridges, which used to be on Portland because it was on the Portland side of the fleet, which is now on the Weymouth side of the fleet, and therefore ought to be in Weymouth, surely. As I said, there is no commercial or residential properties involved whatsoever. It is tidying up exactly as the same happened up on the Ridgeway. So I oppose this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Legg. Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I start by just saying, Councillor Cocking, thank you very much for the really nice way you actually proposed that. It was a really good change from the shouting councillor earlier. I don't remember his name. And so it was very nice to have a sensible discussion about it. I would have been interested and was going to ask what was to be gained by moving this to Weymouth, but it actually seems like it might be a bit of a land grab. And the removal of land that's currently covered by a local plan, actually moving it to somewhere where it's not covered, seems detrimental to the area as a whole. So I absolutely will be supporting your proposal, and I hope that everybody else does as well, if for no other reason than to keep the land with that current protection.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey-Clark. Councillor O'Leary, would you have any objections to this amendment proposed and seconded and debated to be put in with your amendment, which has already been successful? We will now move to the vote then, please.
The vote is now open. Councillor Sarah Williams, would you mind just voting again for us? Thank you. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote on the amendment are 49 in favour, 16 against, 9 abstentions. The amendment is therefore carried.
Thank you very much. So I'm afraid I'm going to ask you again now to vote on the substantive motion, which will include the amendment that's just been approved. If you can follow my, so we've got Louis' amendment and Councillor O'Leary's amendment and Councillor Cocking's amendment in together, which becomes a substantive vote. Please vote now.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Councillor Maria Rowe, would you mind voting again for us, please? 69. Councillor Jill Taylor, would you mind voting against for us again, please? Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the substantive motion are 46 in favour, 23 against, 5 abstentions. The recommendations are therefore carried as amended.
Thank you, Susan. So we gallop along to agenda item 15. Review of public participation rules. I'm going to ask Councillor Richard Briggs to introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I hope this will be more straightforward and less controversial, though I have heard mutterings that it might not be, so well, here goes. I think it is self-explanatory, as I'm sure you've all read the report, so it should be straightforward. Matters of the Constitution which can't be delegated, as is written in the report, go to audit and governance to be decided. And we had a legitimate request from the chairman, no less, to deal with an issue that, as explained in there, with the number of questions coming in. What I should stress, this is not about reducing the time for questions. It's about making it clearer so that people know, the length of the question, to give that opportunity for the biggest number of people to spread it across the community, so it's not just people having 2 questions, etc. And I think we did go through all the permutations in a task and finish group, which was cross-party. There was varying views, it's clear to be said. But I think that was the general consensus on those A to E, which I'm happy to support. But I think it is the fairest option. These things are not done lightly. There is a review process, and if it isn't working in due time, it can be changed. But I think nobody recognised, perhaps in the early stages, when this was brought in, the public questions, that there'd be so many, and that has created its own issues, and we've got to try and be fair, and I think this is a reasonable stab at it. Obviously, we had a proposal from a member of the public, Mr. Watts, I think it was, about all questions being presented in the minutes. I think that's something that's to be thought about. I don't know how that's... Obviously, that's up to anyone to propose an amendment if they wish to do that. I'm easy on that, but I'm more than happy to present them A to E as presented and look for a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Biggs, and I'm personally very grateful that the committee had a good look at this. I understand Councillor Spencer-Flower would like to second the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I had a look back at the... Thank you very much, Richard, for your presentation. I looked back at the minutes of the audit and governance on the 27th of February because I was curious to have a look because, like you said earlier on, it was cross-party. It was a group of members that got together to look at these arrangements. I thought the outcome was very balanced and very sensible. and I'm going to support what we've got before us. But I think the encouraging thing for me was there was a cross-party support for this, and I noticed the proposer and seconder of the recommendation before us tonight are members of, not the members of the Conservative group. So I thought that was encouraging. It was done in a very sensible way, Chairman, and I think we should go to the vote. I see no reason why we shouldn't accept this. See how it goes. We can always, if things develop and you want to come back and have another look at it, there's nothing stopping you doing it, giving it a period of time to see how it works.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flower. Councillor Borden.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion without notice to amend the recommendation just to add section E at the end. And I've lost the piece of paper I wrote it on, but I did submit it earlier on, that public... Oh, thank you. A person who submitted a question may ask a follow-up question in the meeting remotely by Teams or in writing once Dorset Council's response to the question has been received. And the rationale to this is just that it could provide more engagement with the issue and ensure that members of the public felt that Dorset Council genuinely encouraged and valued public participation. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Borden. Councillor Jesperson.
I was going to speak to the substantive motion, not to the amendment, because I didn't know the...
Sorry. Do we have a seconder for your amendment? Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak, sir?
Not necessarily, Chair. I just support I'm happy to second.
So we're now debating the amendment. Anybody? Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. And whilst on principle I support anything that increases public participation with the council, honestly, I feel that questions and statements of full council are not ways to participate with the council, and in reality are generally single issue topics and grandstanding. I think most of the time that is the case. There are exceptions, and I will absolutely take that. It might not be the view shared by everybody. And I think that actually, by allowing this, the people that are most likely to make use of it are those that are doing exactly that. And I think if people want to actually engage with the council, come to us, talk to us, ask us questions. We all engage the residents every single day. I don't think this would actually accomplish what I think Councillor Bowden is trying to do, which I fully support completely, getting more engagement. I think this will create a longer period of what I consider grandstanding.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey-Clark. Anybody else? Councillor Flower.
Yeah, very briefly, I agree absolutely with what Councillor Lacey-Clark has said. I've got the Lord bit. I'm not going to support this amendment because this isn't a debate. You ask a question, you get an answer, you get a written response. There's a huge day, and I do appreciate the point about that engagement. We're all local members, we've all got wards. Most of the sort of things we should be dealing with them locally as best we can. So I'm not going to support this amendment. I think there's a danger in it. We'll start a debate, and it's a question and answer session, not a debating chamber. So I agree with what Knox said.
Thank you. Councillor Jesperson.
Madam Chairman, I was not wishing to speak to the amendment, so I was wishing to speak to the original substantive motion.
Thank you very much. Well, in which case we will vote on the amendment, please. Oh, hang on. Councillor Took, we see you.
Thank you. I take a little issue with the idea that people come to council to grandstand. I think that's rather an offensive characterisation of the Dorset public. I suspect that most people have issues that they want to... Sorry? Well, it was on. I'll start again. I take offence at the idea that the most people who come to Dorset Council to ask questions are grandstanding. I think there are a number of issues that they have, and it's all very well for the leader to say that they ask a question, they get an answer. In all too many cases, actually, they don't get an answer. They get an answer, but not one that addresses the question. And I think it's quite in order for people to pull that answer back into an actual answer. And I can see some people nodding and some people shaking their heads. That's my view. If people want to get a proper answer from the council and actually obtain an answer from the council, then I think they should be allowed to ask supplementaries or to drag the answer back away from theory into reality, which is sometimes what happens. So I'd actually support that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Took. Sorry, I think you've already spoken, Councillor Lacey-Clark. I don't think you're allowed to speak to the amendment again. Oh, no, it's fine. If there's no more questions, we are going to the vote on this amendment, please.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Councillor Gorringe, could you vote again for us, please? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 22 in favour, 48 against, 2 abstentions. The amendment is therefore lost.
Thank you very much, Susan. I don't know. Councillor Fry?
About the original amendment, the original proposal. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit tonight. I'll let Councillor Jesperson was first. So
Councillor Jesperson, sorry.
That's all right, thank you. I realised that there was confusion with. I just wanted to again say a little bit in support of the original motion here, which seems to me pragmatic and sensible. What I want to just share with the Chamber is that planning committees are conducted under very similar rules and have been all along. And I would like to reassure the Chamber that it works very effectively for planning committees. The objective is not to restrict comment, but to achieve a workable balance between public participation and the time available for the business of the day. And one possible danger of unlimited questions and questions coming back within the half hour, and this is touched on the report, is that none of the questions is then heard properly. In my experience, people take a good deal of time and trouble crafting their questions and their statements, and councillors want to be able to do justice to this part of our agenda. And it seems to me this proposed arrangement will facilitate this and will allow a better quality of discussion over the 8 questions and statements that we do here. So I would like to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Jesperson. Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. We've sat here many times. We are here to do council business, and that's the reading reports as we've done tonight. But we welcome the people who want to read their questions or their statements and go forward. But I support this. We cannot have unlimited time for that. So I would like to suggest an amendment that we do stick to 8 questions, we do stick to 8 statements, but anybody over that goes into the minutes and gets an answer as well. That way we widen the democracy. People can still be answered. It's only those who are not here or watching online. Everybody else can see the answer to their question online in the minutes. So I would like to propose that, and if anybody's happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Ezard, have I got... Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry.
Hang on a second, Councillor Azad. So Councillor Fry's proposed an amendment. You now need a seconder to that amendment. Basically, I think Councillor Suttler's.
I'm sorry, could you use your microphones, please?
Sorry, we now need to know whether Councillor Azad wants to speak to the amendment as proposed by Councillor Fry or to the original. Because if you want to speak to the original, you need to wait because we're now debating the amendment.
Councillor Rennie.
Mine's a question to the amendment because I'm now confused because Councillor Fry talked in his amendment about time. We already surely, and this is the question, have a set time for questions and statements, 30 minutes. We don't have to continue past 8 questions if we've got to 30 minutes. And the second question is, the questions, the people who come in here and ask the questions are taken on a first-come, first-served basis. Yeah. So the whole business of time is irrelevant because we only have 30 minutes to make the debate. No, the question. Yes? No?
Sounds good to me, Councillor Rennie. Councillor Fry, are you quite happy with your amendment?
Chair, yes, I am. What I am saying is we accept and we adopt what is the recommendation. 8 questions asked, 8 statements asked in the chamber. Any more and over that, get into the minutes and get a written reply.
If that's what the report says, actually, Councillor Fry. Sorry. Reading from the agenda item rules here, C, that any questions received after the first 8 questions, the resident or organisation will be asked if they wish to receive a written response from the portfolio holder. Are we happy with that? So would you like to withdraw your amendment? Thank you very much. Councillor Ezard.
Thank you, Chairman. That's clarified that. Yes, I'm afraid I don't like this change. Changing the rules from the original is gagging the public, as far as I'm concerned, who only have 4 times a year to ask the full council in public questions. So we are then actually stopping people from coming to full council in the public domain of asking any question they wish. So that is actually, first come, first serve for however many questions they need to ask. But what I suggest is that instead of having the cabinet member answer the question after each question, to have the 30 minutes of the questions, however many it may be, and then have all the answers not in the 30 minutes. So they have the answers later. But that doesn't mean I'm saying an amendment, but what I mean is I actually think this is gagging the public if we change these rules. I'm sorry, we've got enough red tape as it is. So let's stick with the rules. There's no reason to change it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ezard. Councillor Beddoe.
Thank you, Chair. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we've had talk about potential grandstanding. We've had talk about people would like to hear have their words said to the full council, which is the right of our residents. I think the full council is a place where, if you're a resident, I agree with what I think it was Sherry said, Councillor Jesperson, sorry, said that residents take time to craft their questions or their statements. We come here often, don't we? But they don't. This is a big deal. If you have something, you're a resident, and you want full council to hear it, it's a big deal. However, if you want some detail and you want to engage with the council, any of my residents can give me a ring on my mobile. It's on the Dorset Council website. I will go in, I will talk to the officers, I will get the answers for them. We can go back, we do go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Every single member of this council can get those answers for their, and should be getting those answers for their residents, for their parish councils, for their town councils, if they need that assistance. However, the full council is an opportunity for residents to have their voice heard. It's not a back and forth. So I support the substantive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoe. Councillor Flower.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to add one addition to the idea of making sure that members of the public have a chance to address this council in one form or another. We have Cabinet, and we've encouraged Cabinet to get involved with encouraging members of the public, members of this chamber to come along and ask questions. And they get comprehensive, accurate responses, which they can then use in relation to what they might be supporting in their community and so on. So I don't think, and by the way, I think it's 5 meetings a year, not 4, but that's another point. But the most important thing is, I think this is workable, and I think we need to give it a try. The chairman's got some discretion. If we get to the 7th or 8th question and there's one to go and it's really important, it links to something else, I'm sure she'll use that discretion wisely. So I think we've got a criteria that we should be supporting this evening. Can we get on with the vote, please, Chairman?
Well, I'm very happy to get on with the vote if everybody will let me. So over to you, Susan. Thank you.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Councillor Brenton, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. Yeah, done. Councillor Sarah Williams, please could you vote for again, please? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 53 in favour, 15 against and 2 abstentions. The substantive motion is therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for looking at this at Audit and Governance. Right, I've been advised we've got a quarter of an hour left before we have to set aside. I've got 2 items left on the agenda, so we're going to crack on with agenda item 16, appointment of Audit and Governance co-opted members. Councillor Biggs to introduce the report and I hope propose the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Another attempt to be something more straightforward, he hopes. So, those who've been involved or done any LGA courses, and I'm sort of looking at Matt Hall, Councillor Matt Hall, and we went on one a long time ago together, and I went on one recently when I took over the chairmanship of Audit and Governance. And LGA are very keen on having co-opted members, co-opted independent members, that's not independent as in as we think of them, to add value to the audit and governance process, that independence, to bring that level of knowledge and that continuity. So that's what is proposed here. It's SIP for guidance, the government task SIP for looking into this question, and they've strongly recommended it. It may well be government legislation to propose that anyway. I think the LG have said nearly 50% of councils currently do have co-opted members. So we're really bringing this council in line with best practice, and I think it will add value. There is a small remuneration fee which you'll see attached for £2,000 for each of those members, so there is a small cost. But at the end of the day, we're overseeing spend of around £350 million. I think it's a small price to pay to have that extra value in there for a relatively small fee. So I'm hoping that's not controversial, but I shall wait and see. But I'm happy to propose that, and I know, I believe Councillor Cockings, my Vice Chair on Audit Governance, is prepared to second that, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Biggs. I believe Councillor Flower is going to second these recommendations. Thank you.
Sorry, have I beaten you to...
Okay, absolutely fine. Councillor Cocking. Does anybody have a burning desire to speak on this? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to endorse this proposal. As chair of a committee with up to 4 independent members, I can actually state how much they add to all our proceedings. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm not going to hang about. I think we're going to go straight to the vote, if that's okay. Thank you.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Councillor Ferrari, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. 57. Councillor Quayle, would you mind voting again? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, members. Vote is now closed. Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. And the results of the vote are 65 in favour, 1 against and 3 abstentions. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you very much, Susan. So, agenda item 17, appointment of deputy electoral registration officers. I'm going to ask Matt Prosser to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I bring this forward as your appointed electoral registration officer, and this report is before you tonight in order that authority can be given to appoint deputy electoral registration officers for the effective and efficient administration of the electoral service function, including implementation of the Election Act 2022 responsibilities, i.e. voter ID. And it's also to agree a delegation for temporary changes to polling places for the reasons that are set out in the report. The delegation will ensure there's no delay in issuing voter authority certificates, ensuring that any registered elector without existing photographic identification that wishes to exercise their right to vote in person at a polling station is able to do so. The delegation will also enable an alternative polling station to be used in the event of an agreed polling station becoming unavailable, ensuring that voters are able to cast their vote in person, which I hope we'll all agree is incredibly important. I will leave, I think, Councillor Flower to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm more than happy to move the recommendations. It makes sense to me, and it's set out in the report eloquently by the Chief Executive, so I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Sutton?
Delighted to second and hope we can go straight to the vote.
Thank you very much. We're going to vote. Thank you.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Yeah, let's close the vote. Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. 69 in favour.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 18, urgent items, and there are none. Agenda item 19, exempt business, and there is no exempt business. So I will close the meeting. Thank you for your attendance. Safe journey home. Thank you.